everybody, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. I am starting off today's video in my basement near some of my seedlings that have been going and growing. So I wanted to bring you along today as I take a look at what's happening with the crops I've started already, as well as going out into the greenhouse because there is a particular crop over here that needs to get planted out in my raised bed garden. So before I turn the camera around and talk to you about the different things I have growing here under my grow lights in the basement, I'm going to ask all of you to please like and subscribe to my channel so I can continue to bring my garden adventures in this zone 6 garden here in mid-Missouri to the rest of you. I really appreciate your support. So let me get back up just a little bit and let you know kind of the timeline, because that is a very important consideration when you are starting things from seed. You need to know, when is my last frost date? And I talk about this a whole lot to you all. So, it's just a simple Google search. So you need to know that. But let me tell you a little bit about my garden. So I'm here in mid-Missouri and I am in a gardening zone 6AB. My last average frost is April the 15th where I live. So I have to calculate backwards from that point to know when to start my seeds. So here we are, not quite the middle of March, and that means for me, I've got about a month before my average last frost. But generally speaking, unless it's a cold weather crop, which I'm going to show you in a minute, I am not going to put my hot weather crops or hot weather annuals out into the landscape until probably the first week of May, just to be extra safe. Because remember, average last frost is just that. It's an average. It could frost after that date. It could frost before that last date. So I just err on the side of caution a little bit by waiting for the things that really need heat to go out into the raised bed garden or my flower beds. I wait until the first week of May. I just encourage everybody to do your own thing, study your own environment and do experimenting. You're going to find what works for you. And some years it works and some years it doesn't. And that's just part of gardening. Okay, it's time to turn the camera around and show you what I've got growing and give you a little bit of information on how long these different things have been growing and what the next steps will be to get them out in the landscape. So this setup should look familiar to those of you that have been following my channel. And here we are in my basement. I've got a nice table set up for seed starting. These are seeds that I like to start in the winter. So rather than starting them in my greenhouse, I just baby them a little bit in here. So let's take a look at what's growing. All right, these are my sugar snap peas, and you saw me sow these seeds. They're ready to be transplanted out into my raised bed garden. But before I do that, I'm going to be taking them out to my greenhouse because they need to harden off. And that just simply means they need to get used to a little bit of harsher environment before they go into the garden. So I'm going to take you along with me today and show you where in the greenhouse they're going to hang out for a couple of days before I actually transplant them into the garden. And my sugar snap peas have been growing for 4 weeks. So it's just been a month and they are ready to go out. They are a cool weather crop, which means they can handle some light frost. So it's only mid-March, but where I live, it's perfectly fine to get your peas in the ground this time of year. All right, let's take a look at a couple of other things I started a month ago as well. So this would be my tray of parsley. Let me zoom in here. You see they're getting their true leaves. And what that means is that you're going to look for the leaf that looks like the actual adult plant, and that's what that one is. But down here, these are cotyledon leaves, and these are the little leaves that are the first to come up when your seeds germinate. But you're waiting for the leaves to take shape and look like the adult plant. And oh, check out this. These are my leeks. But looks like I spilled some parsley seed into the corner of this tray. So here are my leeks. And again, I started my leeks 4 weeks ago. So all 3 of these trays were started just 1 month ago. You can see I've got over here several leeks in one cell, and that's okay. I'll be separating them out when it's time to transplant them. But neither of these are ready at all to go out into the garden. They're going to hang out here for probably another month, or in my greenhouse for another month to get some growth on them. Speaking of those true leaves that I described to you all with the parsley plants, when your seedlings get a couple sets of true leaves, you can actually start to fertilize them with a low dose, half strength organic fertilizer. And this is what I like to use on my new seedlings, whether they are flowers or vegetables or herbs. So this Neptune's Harvest fish and seaweed fertilizer, it is stinky. So if you use it, just know that, yeah, the room it's in, it's not going to smell the greatest. That's for darn sure. But boy, your plants will love it. All right, so let's check out these two trays. So these seedlings, believe it or not, I just started 9 days ago, and look already. The funny thing is they've been so humid, and I marked them. Let's see, are they backwards? Yeah, okay. Let me just turn them around. So in the front here, we have Mrs. Burns lemon basil. So I have pretty darn good germination with my basil. And back here, here's my carmine gomphrena. They're just now coming up, but it's only been 9 days. You see that they're on a heat mat, which is important. And you can see that I had the dome on them to hold in the moisture, which is important. Seeds will not germinate if they dry out. However, now that I'm down here, once you see, for me, I like to look for about 80% germination rate, and that I'm definitely there. Once you have about 80% germination rate, you need to remove that lid because you don't want the foliage of these new plants to be too wet, because that can cause all kinds of fungus issues and dampening off, etc. So dome comes off, and actually I'm going to move them off of the heat mat. They don't need that heat any longer. And then over here, I should have my feverfew, something I've never grown before. And if we go in here really, really close, can you see this tiny little seedling right there and there? If you were with me on my last video, and I'll make sure I put it in the description below, you know that those seeds were microscopic. I tried to put just a couple of them in each cell, and then I gave up, and I just said, oh, what the heck? And I just broadcasted them. So those are going to be beautiful little snowball variety feverfew cut flowers. And last but not least, I had a few feverfew, or no, I guess these are gomphrena. Yeah, I had a few gomphrena seeds left over, and I threw them in this little pot outside. And I don't know how well I can show you, but there are a few coming up here. I'm sure that this clay pot has drawn some of the moisture out, so probably the germination rate isn't so great because of it. But I could not be happier with what's happening here with these beautiful seedlings. So next stop, the greenhouse. I'm going to take these sugar snap peas out there to harden them off. I might take my parsleys out too. So I might take these three out and relocate them in the greenhouse so they can get hardened off out there and grow a little bit more. These, I think I'm going to baby. They need to stay in here a bit longer. I have so many more seeds I'm starting today and tomorrow that I'm going to need space in here to get that accomplished. And one last thing I wanted to share with everybody before we get out to my greenhouse. If you know me well, you know I like to be organized, and I grow hundreds and hundreds of different types of plants every season from seed. And I can't remember everything, so I create for myself online just a really simple little seed starting calendar. And so I look at all my seed packets, I count backwards, and then I put the variety of seeds I need to start in a calendar format. And as I sow them, you can see I like to highlight what I've accomplished. And so if you look at this week, which is where you can see all those things that haven't been highlighted, that would indicate I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 varieties of things I'm either going to be direct sowing in the next 2 days or starting from seed. So whew, the 2025 season is here and I am all for it. So let's head inside my greenhouse and see where my basil, leeks, and my sugar snap peas are going to hang out until I get ready to place them out in the landscape. So here I am in my greenhouse, and for those of you that follow my channel, it might look a little bit different in here than it did the last time I filmed in the greenhouse because we just installed our shade cloth for the season. My husband put this up for me yesterday, and when you have a greenhouse, people that don't have greenhouses really don't realize that it can get blistering hot in your greenhouse, even on a semi-cool day. For instance, yesterday, the external temp was around 50 degrees, but it was a completely cloudless day and loads of sun. And inside the greenhouse with my windows and the door of the greenhouse closed, it was over 90 degrees in here on a 50-degree day. So we prefer shade cloth. Everybody needs to do their own thing. There's a lot of different opinions about shade cloth and when to use it and when to install it. We had great luck last year installing it about this time, which is mid-March, and we'll leave it on until September. It reduces the internal temperature in here by at least 15 degrees versus without it. I do have my wonderful auto exhaust that kicks on at 90 degrees. And I have another exhaust louvered window in my Yoder-built greenhouse that opens naturally as it warms up in here. So we have some things to help it stay cooler in the heat of the summer. The other thing about shade cloth, if you're considering it, watch my installing shade cloth video. I'll put it in the description below. But you have to decide on how much you want to shade your greenhouse. And I use a 70% Alumet shade cloth from, I think I got it from Greenhouse Mega Store. And believe it or not, even with 70%, my seedlings still grow just fine. They still get enough light. However, as you can see in my greenhouse, I do supplement grow lights because we have short days early in the spring. And so my grow lights kick on around dusk and stay on for several more hours so that my seedlings get a total of about 16 hours of light a day. All that's left for me to do today is to decide where I want to put my trays of sugar snap peas, parsley, and leeks in the greenhouse. As I mentioned to you, my peas are going to harden off by being in here as well as outside in some sun. I'm going to let them get used to the environment for a couple of days before I actually transplant these beauties into my raised bed garden. And as always, I want to thank you all so much for supporting my channel and liking and subscribing and hanging out with me today. It is such an exciting time, I know, for me, and I'm sure it is for you all. This time of year, early spring, getting things going, and just hoping and dreaming for a really wonderful new gardening season. So until next time, I'm going to wish you all happy gardening.